Welcome to Start Early. Hello. We are starting early on as per the timer. Hi everybody. Very excited. It's Sandra and Lady Amaran. We're very excited to bring everyday topics to you with a little bit of a touch of metaphysical because that's who we are. We love talking about everyday subjects. You may have caught our podcast, Step into Your Life, last month. You can find my podcasts on my YouTube channel, just like this one as well. And we're going to be doing this ideally once a month because we found that we have a lot to talk about.
It's so
and
fun.
yeah, exactly. And so far in the one that we've done, we've already come up with the subject for this one. So I'm really excited about that. But let's take a moment first to ground and then go from there. So just really inviting each and every one of the listeners, as well as ourselves, to take a few breaths to really feel into the core of who you are in this space. Asking the mind, body, and soul and all aspects of self to be willing to receive and share, to listen and be heard. To step into the power of being open with the I am open. With no expectations, no limitations, choosing to be consciously aware that I am creating my outcome. And I invite you, Lady Amaran, if you have something you'd like to add to that, I would love that, please.
Yeah, well, we'll do it like we did last time, one of my favorite relaxing things. So we'll do the figure eight around the eyes. Remember? So, and we just do this, everybody, until you, and that's going to help. The signal that your body is um, getting there. So just take two fingers, one finger, and you can actually press onto your skin or not. Go around in a figure eight until you yawn. Oh, you're still muted.
I don't know how long it would take me to get to the point where I would actually yawn.
I know you said you got some issues going on today, so it might be a little bit more, but that's the principle. You just keep going until you yawn, and again, that's the signal that your body is relaxing. So it's a fun little thing I like to do. And I need just that quick little boost,
I
relaxation.
love that. It's so comical because my mouse got stuck here, and now I have us as absolutely massive, so I can see our teeth. Oh, and I have to move the screen back and forth a little bit. So thank you everybody for your patience. Just really, really enjoying this space with Lady Amaran. And today we're going to talk about role playing. And what's really kind of cool about that is there are so many different types of role playing. You probably have seen a lot of the anime type. I mean, I've been to Japan and watched everybody over there in their outfits. That's just like I absolutely love that. Like I'm not totally into Sailor Moon per se, but I love the anime. I love all the anime of that. And then watching our children role play. Watching. I made outfits. I made my kids' Halloween costumes, and they were played year round in these. So I made like Batman and Wolverine and Pokemon and these type of things, and the kids had such a blast. And then there's two other types. Well, there's a whole swack. There's the type of role playing that people play when they're in sexual games or whatever. There's the role playing that I really lean into, and then there's the role playing that you're very familiar with as well. So let's talk a little bit about those two. I'll share mine first because I imagine between the two of them, that you and I do, we can actually really share that back and forth quite a bit. The role playing that I really like to lean into is when somebody says something really nice about you and you accept it and you choose to become that in your own mind as well, in your own heart as well. Because we so often take those compliments and we just toss them aside and we just continue on our day being the person that we've always been. And I'm telling you that when somebody started to say nice things about me, I started to believe them. And I didn't realize that I wasn't believing that before until I started to recognize that I was saying, no, I don't want, you don't need to say that. It's okay. You don't need to say that, kind of pushing it away. And when I started to accept that, then I started to role play in that. So for instance, one beautiful soul gifted me the title, the Galactic Shaman. And I could have said, oh, that's really cool, and just dropped that, right? Never really paid attention to it. Or I could have done what I have done and stepped into it. And by stepping into it, it's really been quite miraculous how that's expanded my spiritual journey. What it does for me as I channel meditations, the whole, like everything that I do, I really am in this conscious awareness of the galactic shaman. And when I look at the sky, I'm very conscious of being the galactic shaman. There's so much about that. So share with us the role playing that I'm alluding to that you are familiar with.
And I love that because it does play well, if you will, with what I do, because and essentially that's what role play is. Whether you're doing it in the bedroom, whether you're doing it at Comic-Con or whatever, it's you are stepping into that persona, that energy, whatever it is, and whether you're doing it just for a time or whether you're doing it as a lifestyle or because it's who you are. Now you're claiming that as who you are, and I think that's where you go with it, is that aspect of it, of this, I am claiming this is who I am accepting this, that the parts that we don't see from ourselves from other people, right, that other people see in us, and so what I do is a little bit on it's, again, similar concept, but I take you through the process of looking within and seeing who do you want to be, right? And it can be very helpful, again, to get that out from outside of ourselves, like from other people, to recognize, this and that. And my name, actually, Lady Amaran, or the lady part of Lady Amaran, came from a friend of mine, actually. And it was, again, one of those things. It's like, okay, that's fun. And so we used it back and forth. But when I really started developing my business and my direction and everything, the business, and I was like, well, that's who I am, and it's so powerful. Even just, and I'm actually working on a very fun thing to be announced in a little bit here, going into the importance of names, and how, just like you're saying, the galactic shaman, like it's a title or a name that really helps you to embody that energy, that persona, that who you are, so yeah, what I do is really help you dive in and uncover who you do want to be, right? Not just on a let's say practical level, if you will, of oh, your human design chart or your astrology chart or something like that, but like, there's aspects of like, well, who do you want to be, right? And these things, and it's it can help us to get out of our heads when we think of it in a play aspect, right? And it doesn't have to be, again, like the one and done, or just, well, this is just me at Comic-Con, or this is just me, whatever. This is me every day, right? And it's because I've gone through a process to like, this is what I like to wear. This is how I like to act. This is what I like to eat. This is what I like to, um, and it's been playing around with different things and seeing this, and um, it's so powerful, and it's so magical and fun, and it really helps to reframe life, just in general, and really takes you from uh, how I say it takes you from faith to freedom, and just really helps like skyrocket that personal power. It's just such a fun process.
I want to jump in here because of some of the things that you said. Like, um, I'm like I said, I just am so glad that this topic came up because I think it's very, very important. You're have something that you're creating as well as I have something that I'm creating, and what I've created, it's been channeled, and I imagine yours is to some degree as well, if not totally or whatever. But the inner dragon piece that I'm now working with is really, really fascinating. And when we talk about the archetypes of the inner dragon, it is like the creator, the guardian, the healer, and the rest of them, right? And when you start to understand that part of yourself, like in reality every single part of you is one of the archetypes. So,
Yes.
it's just like we have all the chakras within us, all this energy portals in us, all of that is a part of us. However, there are pieces of each of those energy pieces, the aspects of ourselves, that when we are actively being in that much more, um, the flow of life changes. Let's put it that way. The flow of life changes. So I can really hear what you're saying. Like yesterday, I had this image of myself going on to stage, and I was actually in a dragon outfit. So that felt really, really cool considering I'm talking about the inner dragon. And when we talk about the archetypes, like my archetype came out as the healer. However, I am such a creator. Like I've been a photographer. I've been a quilter, an artist, an author, all these different pieces. I'm definitely a creator. I've been a warrior because I've been the person who stood up for people, up for my mom, stood up for friends, stood up for my kids, whatever the case is, right? I've been the visionary. I mean, this inner dragon, if that's not a visionary, what is that, right? Though, having said that, because I'm so conscious that I am all those, it also gives me the space to be even more so in that healer piece. That healer piece for me was the healing of my inner child and then moving into the what's next. Not necessarily saying that I'm done with my inner child, but really recognizing that there's more out there. And if there's more out there, what is that other piece of myself? It's the inner dragon. And so healing that relationship now with the inner child and the inner dragon has been what's really powerful. So when I hear you talk, you've said some really interesting things in our last conversation about how you thought you really wanted to be the heroine in the show, and yet you found that you were actually one of these other roles instead. So maybe step into some speaking about that, because it too is the exact same thing. There's all these roles that can be played,
Right.
just like the archetypes. There's all these roles that can be played, but the one that really is the one that you really shine in, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, and I think that's such an important piece of it. And Nick, and we touched on it in our last conversation, but it's like, so in how I work with people, I look at your quantum human design, what I call the hero's blueprint. And that gives insight into aspects of your being, how you were created to best function, to best flow through life and challenges and all these different things. Um, but it's just a blueprint, right? So there's aspects of that you can play into to help you figure out who this person is, this what I call the inner hero. Um, but it's not necessarily like a this is you, right? Like you have no choice in this, right? And there's 5 different types in quantum human design, but again, that does not define like, oh well, you have to be the soldier, you have to be, you know, this, that, or whatever in your in your life, I have a lot of, we say, fiery energy in my being. So I can tend to be blunt, straightforward, a little uh, so not soft. I can very easily go to that place. Um, and between that and a lot of life experience, I was a very hard person, and I just went to this place of well, let me just slash and cut and all this and force things and be that person. And there's a time and a place for those people, for those that are called to be that, right? But I realized,
I was a tell it like it is person,
Mhm.
and I still am, but my whole demeanor has really changed in how I deliver it. And that's what I hear you saying.
Exactly. And right. So for me, I realized through this process that I've been going through over the years of realizing that I had a choice. Ultimately, I could choose to be that person, um, within my energy and all these aspects. It doesn't change, my design or my astrology, or however you want to look at these other aspects. Um, it's how I choose to show it and use it, right? Um,
And I want to just kind of expand so people have an idea of literally, maybe in layman's terms. I'm a projector in the human design, and the projector is supposed to wait for the invitation before helping. And now that can shut a lot of projectors down because they're just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. The thing is you, there's things that we can do as projectors that puts us out there so that people see us and find us, and then in our offering they can then choose to step in. That's the invitation there, right? Is when they start to have conversations with us in a different way.
right. And it's understanding, and that's a whole big rabbit hole that I'd love to go in at some point, of understanding these aspects of your chart. Like for me, I am a time bender. And so I'm kind of the zoom, 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 zoom person, right? Um, and I can, by understanding these aspects of my chart, like I understand as a time bender, I have plateaus. So I have like this massive surge of energy, massive surge of progress and all of this. And then I'm going to plateau, right? And I have to learn how to be okay with that within my energy of like, okay, I've had this surge of mastery. Now I'm going to plateau before I go again, right? Um, and so it's just learning to play within different aspects of our natural energetic flow, which is what something like quantum human design or astrology, or these things can help you uncover, right? And that's why they're such amazingly helpful tools.
And now the inner dragon archetype with the chakra. Like this to me, like I'm really quite astounded by what's unfolding with this inner dragon archetype, because it feels very much like you know I don't really know how to describe it, because I've done too the astrological things, the human design things, the like all of these bits and pieces, and there's so many different, like the different like disc, all these different aspects that I can see myself in all of these. And even my astrological story, like it makes entire sense. And I'm one that has two times, the one that I was energetically given and my birth time, and yet they're two different stories, yet they make entire sense in my path, right? And it's the same thing as going on with this inner dragon archetype. It's expanding in a way that it takes um, it actually gives you the tools that really help you to understand each of these pieces in a very profound manner. Uh,
Right. Yeah. And I like to say using these tools helps you be more aware and be able to make more informed, aligned choices in who you choose to be and how you choose to be it. So that's why, and I see, like, I love all the things, right? And I see them as like different facets on the diamond of you, right? So don't just look at human design. Don't just look at astrology. Don't just look at it. It's like, because they're all taking taking you in from a different perspective, right? So it's all very, very helpful in understanding that piece. Ultimately, it still comes back to you choosing to embody that and how you're going to do that.
So let's talk about that embodiment with regards to the name. Okay. So you did a little bit of explaining around the lady portion of that, and just like I did with the galactic shaman, and another name that was gifted to me, as you can see on my thing here, is the Sandini, and actually what was gifted to me, and this was in 2000 and gosh, I think it was 2016 actually. It was actually the Great Sandini, and um, to be public with something like that uh, was a little bit more than I felt comfortable chewing off. However, I do have a page that is the Great Sandini, and on my computer, I think it's the Great Sandini. And who I am, I can energetically step into the Great Sandini, especially because of the path that I've witnessed, that I've covered. And so, what I'm really asking you guys as a listeners to hear is the steps. The steps. This isn't about Sandra. This isn't the Sandra show. I'm explaining the steps in first person because this was my journey, and your journey could be anything like mine or of your own type of thing. What I want you to do is really kind of recognize the names that you maybe have been given. And again, we're always talking about the power names, not the names like "you're such a bitch." That's not a name, okay? That is a derogatory comment made to you that we as human beings tend to lean into too much. And it was my stopping doing that for myself that really changed who I am. And I was able to step into the Great Sandini in a different way. And so, one of the things that I love to help people with is to, just like you, that Lady Amaran piece, it's to help people discover what that name is of themselves, right? And people in my community now have these aspects of themselves, and they're able to lean into those aspects of themselves, and they may not realize they're role playing, but it's huge. It's really huge to see the difference between what they may have been in the past and who they are when they claim that name in a different way.
Right. And I think that's so important to really make sure everybody understands that we are given or giving ourselves names and or titles, however you want to look at it, regardless. Like, you don't have to be in a mindset of role playing or anything like we're doing here to be that. And I won't go into all the names that I called myself back, in my younger years. Um, but yes, they weren't healthy. They weren't empowering. Um, but I lived as though that was me, right? So I accepted that as who I was and lived as though that was me because a lot of things. So, and I imagine a lot of people will resonate with that, right? And it's whether that's things that are coming at you from someone else, or me, it was more of an experience of I was doing it to myself. um but it's the same concept of, well, you can accept these names that are disempowering and very hurtful, or you can choose a name or a title, or that will lift you up, and that is has the energy of who, and not just who you are, but who you are becoming, right? um it's very empowering when I hear other people speak my name, speak Lady Amaran. um it reminds me of not just who I am in this moment, but who I am striving to become in everything that I'm doing. Um, and it was a fun process. So for me, it was actually a like an intentional, like I'm going to sit down and work out a name. When I started getting into metaphysics and everything, and I was as in the woo closet, as if anybody here is familiar with that term, and so I wanted a name that would allow me to be seen without being seen, right? When I came to discover, a lot of people would call this a soul name, or something like that. Um, so I actually sat down and played around with different names. I'm very much into, and I've always been one of those, like I like names, and I like the meanings of names, and I love words and all this. And so I went through, okay, well, meanings of names, what names go with, certain meanings and all this kind of stuff. Um, and I actually had a friend of mine, because I just wasn't landing on anything that really felt right. I had a friend of mine that suggested, well, you can use like words and stuff. You just, like, if there's a word that you like, just make a name out of that or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, people do that, right? Um, so my favorite word of all time, that I don't know why I've always loved it, I love the sound of it, I love the meaning, was amaranthine, right? So I thought, oh, well, if I just chop off the last half of that, and that's a pretty name. And I loved the meaning of it. It's everlasting or endless. And but it still wasn't quite right. Right. And I realized, so my birth name, my given birth name, my middle name is Nicole, which means victory. So when I thought about it, it's like, okay, so if I add Nicole with Amaran, then, so it's not, it, it was like, wow, right? It's, so, here I'm Lady Amaran, that came from Amaran Nicole Sage. And again, my friend was like, talk to Lady Amaran, like, I'm like, I like that. But it helps me to be in that energy, just like dressing like this. It reminds me of who I am and what I'm doing. And same with hearing my name. And it's just, when you land on that right thing, it's both like the warm hug and the lifting you up at the same time into who you are. And it's such a powerful process, and it's such an important process. It's literally the first thing I do with people is we're gonna play around and find your hero name. Because it's so, and whether you use it for everything you do in life or in just certain spaces or just for yourself, right? Having that, just like you're saying with the Sandini and or the great Sandini, it's so powerful to have that. And and just letting it be a fun process, and finding that the words that have the right meanings or the right energy that you are trying to embody, right? Is so
I want to say something to this because two things. One is, as you're speaking, I really recognize, well, what dropped in for me is a reminder of what my game name was. So back when I used to play a lot of different games on the computer, I actually claimed the name Adrian Dane. And it just felt like a real powerful name, right? And I love the name Adrian anyway. The one of my Instagram handles is Mountain Mangler, and now I look at that now, like this is something that, man, I had before I ever was into the spiritual thing. I was the Mountain Mangler on Instagram, and that's my mountain biking adventures. I'm really realizing now, knowing how how do I want to say this, knowing the power of words. I'm really, questioning whether Mountain Mangler is really a good portrayal, because often the mountain mangles me. but
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 that's
uh,
it's such a great thing to notice because um, if we think about names or titles that we give other people that we don't necessarily think of it, and it's not intended to be necessarily like a bad thing or derogatory or anything like that. But let's think about, when we call, these adorable little boys lady killers. Like, really, are we putting that energy onto this young child? Right. And again, we're not intentionally doing it, right? We think it's cute. But if we think of the energy of that term, like, are we really putting this onto a young child that has no concept of what's happening? And we just going to call him a lady killer for the next 10 years? Are we really going to be surprised about attacks that come from that?
Oh, and you know what? We're going off on a complete tangent here. However, I really want to say this too. There's the wife beater shirts, and those are a tank top. Well, in the summer, who's not wearing a tank top? Like every gender's wearing a tank top, and that's such a horrible, horrible depiction of what that shirt is. It truly is. Like,
Yeah.
so this is such an important topic that we're talking about. Just to bring everybody back in, if you're dropping in now in the middle of this, we're talking about role playing. And role playing, as you can tell, both of us have our names up here. We also have many other names. We are business owners. We are possibly authors, creators, visionaries. We are women. We are humans. We are sentient beings. Like, there's just so much that we can be, and yet we tend to stay in this human concept that this is what we have to be. And so, what we're talking about here, Lady Amaran and myself, is that we can step into role playing in a very powerful manner that actually works in our benefit. And I think that uh, if you like what we're talking about, then definitely make a comment. If you are just catching this, I highly recommend you go back and listen to this from the beginning, because it's really quite fascinating, the different aspects of role playing. And we've just kind of brought in clothing and names that we name our children, even our dogs, like calling them a good boy or a bad boy, or whatever. Like, it's just, the power of words is incredible. Go ahead.
And okay, so you're bringing up pet names and all this, and I think so. I have a friend who had a dog named Loki. Okay, after the god of chaos and trickery and all this kind of stuff, right? And when we met the dog and everything, it's sweet dog, lovely dog, but crazy dog. Right. And I'm like, when I met the dog and learned, it's like, wait, you named it Well, are you really surprised that it acts like this? And it's just, even with our animals, right? It's that energy that we are constantly putting on them, you constantly calling them after, the god of chaos. Then are you really surprised that this is a very chaotic animal?
Our dog was called Puddles, so you can imagine what she did.
Oh, love it. Yeah. So it is important, and I think it's such a one thing that I wanted to touch back on. You started to talk about like gaming handles, and anybody that is a gamer here, especially hardcore gamers, video gamers, understand you have your gaming handle, right? And we'll typically carry that throughout whatever game you play. So everybody in the gaming world will recognize you, whether you're playing Minecraft or World of Warcraft or whatever. It's, oh, this is you because I recognize your handle. It's your name in the online gaming community. And so we do that sometimes even without thinking about it. It's like, well, you've now given yourself a persona in that realm of life, right? In the online gaming community. So why can't we do that in other things? But do it in that very intentional way, right? Not this, oh, this sounds cool or whatever. But yeah, actually being very intentional about the words and the energy and the meanings and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I'm leaning in here, just kind of feeling into. Well, everybody take a moment right now. Just take a moment right now to to like even close your eyes and picture the person that you want to be. And you know what? If you're unable to picture the person you want to be, picture the feeling that you want to have. Okay? So really lean into that. Really lean into that. And now, what I invite you to do is just literally take a moment to say, I am, and your name. So, whether that's a handle, an aspect, a piece of yourself, whatever that is, lean into saying the I am and whatever that is. So, I'm going to say the I am for you, and we're going to do this 5 times. So first of all, again, feel into who you want to be. Be open to receiving the power that you are in that space. I am. I am. I am. I am. I am. We'll take another moment to be in the energy of that. And so it is. Now, for myself, I'm going to be very open. This came through recently because I'm choosing to write my mantras down every day this year. I'm choosing to pull cards every day this year or do an oracle for myself every day this year. And what recently came in is I'm the inner dragon magnet, which means people who are interested in knowing more about the inner dragon will be drawn to me. So when I did that, it was so funny because I started with I am the clear channel, and then it went into I am the inner dragon. It's like magnet, and I could really feel the energy just really amp up with that because it was like um, I acknowledge I am the clear channel, but when I stepped into the energy of being the I am the inner dragon magnet, I could feel that literally encompass all of what I am. And, when we were done with the 5 I ams of that, I could have just literally come back in and started yammering. However, it felt really potent and that we needed another moment to be that. So, what I want people to really understand too is that it is really as simple as starting to do something like that to bring
Yeah.
that in.
Yes. And that's so beautiful because, yeah, this does not have to be a big daunting thing, right? Um, whether it's, you know, your inner dragon or your inner hero or anything, it's just start to play with it, think on it, feel into it, as you were saying, and see what comes. And, one thing that I'll toss in here with that is that, you know, we we are fluid beings, right? So what comes first might change, right? Just as you're saying, it's like, so don't think, oh, it has to be perfect straight off the gate, right? Um, so, eh, but yeah, just be with it and feel into it and see how that goes. Play with it for a little bit, right? Like if you think it's like, okay, I think this sounds, it's like, well, talk to yourself with it, use it, say it to yourself. And I think the I am statements is such a powerful thing because and I won't go down the rabbit hole of in quantum human design, your G center, your God center, your heart center, um, is I am statements, right? Because it is so powerful, um, in the not just the great I am, right, but in the you I am, right, um, and putting that with things is so powerful. I am Lady Amaran. And you can even add it into that, I am, Lady Amaran, and whatever the energy that you want to embody, or the purpose that you have, or whatever, put that with it too. You know, I am Lady Amaran. I guide lost heroes to finding their authentic self, or whatever it is for you, right? And adding in, again, if it helps you to add in that clarification piece of like, well, who is this person? Why are they who they are, right? Um, and just play with it, have fun with it. Don't get bogged down. It doesn't have to be a heavy, serious thing, right? But just understanding the importance of the energy and the meaning behind words, is key. And make it fun. If you want to be the great, if you want to be a lady or a gentleman or the queen or the king, or whatever, and you don't have to have a title with it. You can just be, I love, things like Gandalf the Grey, or something. It's like, that was one of the things that I played with. It's like, I want to be a thee, right? I want to be a thee. um,
Let's go ahead and finish that statement, but I want to come back to this. Okay.
no, yeah, I was going to say, but I landed on Lady Amaran because it just feels right, right? I played around with other things and it just didn't feel like that was the right energy for me. This feels right.
I can feel the power of that. What you just said is extremely powerful. The, right? Either or. So often we like, I don't know if people noticed when I said I'm the Claire channel, I'm the inner dragon. Now, inner dragon magnet, let me just finish that. Uh, I could say I'm a Claire channel, or I could say I'm I guess an, because it's an I, an inner dragon magnet. Where's the power in that though? When we claim to be we are amping up our self identity. And what I mean by this is that it's within our rights. It truly is within our makeup, within our ability, within our soul energy, however you want to look at it. When we negate ourselves or lower ourselves with the word av versus the, there's a profound difference. Now, when I say I'm the Claire channel, does that mean that I'm the ultimate? I am the Claire, blah, 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 that I am the clear channel to end all be all kind of thing? No, not necessarily at all. Does that mean that? However, I am the Sandra Pelli, the Sandini. I am the clear channel because I am the unique being that I am. And that clarity will come through for me in that manner. Just like when I claim the being the dragon ally, I could be a dragon ally, and when I hear the word "at," it just means I'm being lumped in with all of the rest, And on one sense, there's nothing wrong with being lumped in with all of the rest, except that we are born to be sovereign beings on one hand as well. So when I step into the energy of being the, I'm claiming the uniqueness that I bring to the table, that I bring into this space.
Right. Not that you are the only one that possibly works with inner dragons or that does this, that, or the other, but there is power, as we've said a million times at this point, power in words. And so here I just go Lady Amaran, right? Because it's the the way people are going to use it in conversation, right? But if you're going to look for me, like on my social media channels or my website or anything, it's actually the Lady Amaran. Um, and exactly that. There is power in that. Like I am not just an Amaran, I am the Lady Amaran. And again, not that there couldn't be other people doing what I do or going by my, the same name or whatever, but it's right. We're not implying that, yeah, it's the one and only, the sovereign, but there is power in those words versus, and if, again, playing with that, saying it to yourself, you know, um, see how that feels, see the shift in energy in yourself when you play with these different words and names and titles and um yeah, it's a really fun process, and especially when you're doing it intentionally and actually like paying attention to those shifts when you're saying different things. um it's a lot of fun. It really is.
I know that we could probably talk forever about this.
Oh yeah.
And this role playing, I feel like I could get very emotional about this because I really want to drive home to people the reality of how important it actually is. That we're doing it anyway, so why not be productive about doing it?
Right.
So I'm just going to kind of go back to, you know, we're doing it because as a child, it's been brought into our face. We claim things from childhood right into adulthood. And a lot of what we're claiming is less than perfect, is how I would like to word that. It's really quite less than perfect. And when we start to recognize the things that we've been claiming that we are, and it comes in like just the simple phrases that we're using on an everyday basis, the simple phrases that we use when we're talking to ourselves in our heads, right? When we start to recognize those things and start to shift out of them and start to claim ourselves by what somebody magical in our life says. I have a beautiful friend who's the one who called me the galactic shaman, and I claim that. I have a coach who called me the inner dragon transformation specialist. Wow. Like holy cow, I didn't even realize that was a thing until he said that's what I am, right? And I claim that. It's so much more in alignment with where I'm going and who I am because I chose to claim these bits and pieces. It
Right.
truly is. So, what would you like to say in kind of like the wind up of this, Lady Amaran?
Yeah. And that's it. That's really the core of it, right? Is that you are playing a character no matter what, right? And it's, are you going to do it intentionally with purpose, or are you going to do it because you have been conditioned into the character, if you will, the character that you are playing, right? Um, and so many people are just going through life essentially oblivious to the fact that they are playing a character that has essentially been designed by somebody else, right? And so why are you doing that and playing somebody that's not in alignment ultimately with who you are versus being intentional and saying, and you don't have to be as fantasy, or obvious, if you will, as say me, uh, but still understanding that you have the power to choose who you are and how you are going to show up in life. Like, again, going back to, I could choose to know my energy and my design, and how I best flow, and I could choose to do that as the sword wielding warrior maiden that's just gonna kill everybody in my path, or I can choose to wield that in a way of being more intentional and purposeful, and wanting to help and guide others, um, in their path. um, it's it's all about that awareness and then intention of the choices that we make, but understanding that you're you're playing a character either way. It's a story of your life, but are you, who's got the pen, what character are you playing? And you have the power to choose and create who you are. And whether that's got a super fantasy name or not, or um, fantasy clothing or not, or whatever, but doing that into that's my bottom line. It's like doing things intentionally, empowered choices, understanding what that means and doing it. Doesn't mean that life's going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that things don't happen, but understanding that and having that level of going about life, it changes everything. It really does. And I'm here. Uh, you know, I am here to be a role model in this. That is my ultimate calling in life. And so hear my heart. Believe me when I say, like, I've been there, right? I've done it the other way, and that's not the way to do it. And I really, my heart just bleeds for everybody that is still in that level of life, knowing now at this point in my life that doesn't have to be that way. And I love how you talk about your people, the what's next, right? Because that's really it. It's like understanding that there is more than that in every aspect of life. And it's taking an intentional journey to, find it.
I absolutely love this. I knew when you and I got together for our first conversation that there's going to be a lot of power in our conversations. And it wasn't conversations that we should have behind closed doors, that we needed to be public with them because they are everyday topics with a metaphysical twist. And what I absolutely love about that is we're going to be doing this ideally on a monthly basis. So watch us. You can find me, Sandra Pelly, at sandrapelli.com. And where can people find you, Lady Amaran?
So you can find me at theladyamaran.com. And same, like I said, on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And it's The Lady Amaran.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here today. Really
Thank you
appreciate
for
you.
having me. I love our conversations. I hope everybody else does too. We just have so much fun with this, and hope it's valuable and you really take it to heart. Like, please really sit with this, play with it, have fun, take it to heart.